Hey guys, welcome back to the next episode of the Big Gay Overalls podcast. My name's Lisa Kirkman. I'm your host. If you're new here, for those who have been along for most of the journey, thank you for following. If you're new, please throw a like or a subscribe on your favorite platform and share this with someone who you think might need to hear this episode today. And I probably need to preface today's episode with a trigger warning, because I'm talking about some concepts about growing up in a childhood where you didn't really get like love freely given, and it was a transactional commodity. So just be forewarned, it's nothing too icky, but I do touch on that topic today. And that is what I want to talk about, is learning as an adult who has come out and come to terms with their identity and having to learn how to accept love when you never really felt it, growing up in that same way and same sense. So, it hits close to home for a lot of us, and it can be a challenge. And I know that's something that I struggle with, and some things that have happened in the last week that kind of made me reflect on this, and that's why I want to talk about it. And I've always been very transparent about my journey and the things I struggle with, to bring to the table and to share with you guys. So as I've talked about before, my mother has the mid stages, I guess, of Alzheimer's, and we've always had a very complex relationship. Like, I can't tell you honestly the last time my mother would have said I love you, and I can honestly say it'd be maybe 40 years, maybe 45 years since I had a hug from my mother. Like, it just doesn't happen. That's not what I grew up in. Like, I'm sure she loves me, but it's never been anything in my entire family as general that you'd express. Like, you write someone a birthday card and you sign it love, but that's it. And we had some issues this week with mum, and her being quite attacking towards me over some things, and it made me reflect on how I want to have that relationship moving forward, being that I'm her primary carer, and how that's going to work. And of course, Sharon was amazing, but it really got me thinking about the different way that I grew up versus what I now experience with Sharon and like her extended family with her aunties, for example. And I know I've talked about that before, how they just love me so freely and communicate that, and they show that like constantly. And I used to believe, and I probably do still subconsciously, I used to believe that love was something you earned. So the more productive I was, the more I did, the more, I showed I was useful or I was good, then I was worthy of being loved. If I did enough, achieved enough, got a good enough report card, did well enough at golf, followed the rules enough, that maybe, just maybe, I'd get a glimpse of what it was supposed to feel like. And I always told myself the story, and I realize it's a story now because it was handed down to me and I didn't create it, was that, oh, you're a perfectionist because you could never, because of your father, you could never, nothing was ever good enough. But I realize it's very easy for my mother to palm that off as being on him, when the same was for her. Like, she would never tell me something was good enough, and I'd hear it go telling someone else, oh, that Lisa got really good marks here and did this, but she would never tell me directly. And even with all the blow-ups this week, I've created some distance because I needed to. And she's talking to Sharon, oh, Lisa's always there and I appreciate it. And she gives Sharon a bunch of flowers for taking her shopping, when really, like, so she'd never communicate anything directly to me. And I grew up in a family environment where love and affection were not freely given. Like, and if you cried, it was like, what are you crying for? I'll give you something to cry about. And I learnt to measure my worth by productivity and perfection rather than by connection and care. And even though now I know that love isn't something you have to hustle for, unlearning those beliefs is still a daily practice. Like Sharon was talking we were talking the other day, as we always do, because at the moment, like, I'm creating lots of things, I'm doing lots of things, and she's like, I feel like this is a trauma response. Like, you're trying to find your purpose and feel like you've got a purpose by doing all these things and being productive and not busy, but being productive and creating. And I agree with her. And I will even say to her at times, like, oh, see, like, I just want to be useful, I want to be helpful. Like, she's like, you don't have to be, like, you can just be. And it's a very big shift to go from not being recognized as worthwhile because of what you did, but just by you being you. And when you grow up in that environment where there's, without those expressions of love, like no reassuring hugs, no words of encouragement, like it's usually just, you'll be right. I mean, from the age of 14, 15, I was getting on, mum would wake me up at 11 o'clock at night if I had to go travel to play golf somewhere. And I'd get myself dressed, get all my gear out the front, wait for a taxi that she'd at least pre-ordered, or sometimes I rang up and ordered, get down to the bus, 8-hour bus trip by myself. Someone would meet me at the other end, whoever's tournament was, whatever. Then they put me back on the bus. There'd be a taxi waiting for me when I got home at probably 1 o'clock in the morning again. Come in, like, and that's it. Like, there was never any, I used to get jealous of the kids that I played golf with, that, they'd have mum or dad or both, walking around, getting their snacks, caddying for them and all that sort of stuff. And I used to think, well, in later years, I went, oh, that helped me develop resilience and independence. But that also helped me develop resilience and independence to a whole new level where it was hard for me to accept help. And, when you grow up in an environment where you don't have that stuff sort of poured on you, it's easy to assume that it's not meant for you. Like, you assume that this is what everyone else feels, even though you look around and notice that everyone else seems a little different. But you're like, well, this is how it's supposed to be. And, I guess subconsciously, you do feel like that you don't deserve it. You're not good enough. You're not worthwhile. And, let me tell you for free, that thought pattern can stay with you long after childhood, and it creeps into relationships. So you settle for things that, are not what's meant for you. Maybe even they're unhealthy, because you feel like that this is what I deserve, friendships, and it eats away at your sense of self-worth, which is something that I've definitely had to navigate and struggle with. And, it's been a constant rebuilding process for me by having, that reinforcement. I'm blessed that I have someone like Sharon and like her aunties who continue to fill your cup with that. But, there's like a 50-year gap, in that thing ran dry. So it's hard to then, patch up the leaks that arise along the way. And, I've really struggled with this a lot. I can give love freely to others and I would give people the shirt off my back if that's what they needed. But when it came to receiving it, I would shrink away. Like, compliments made me feel uncomfortable. Some of my good friends who were members at the gym used to joke like, oh, don't give Lisa a hug, she's not a hugger. But part of me I was like, no, I'd really like one. But then nobody was doing that because they thought that's not what I wanted, because I kept everyone at arm's length. And where people were, kind to me, acts of kindness left me suspicious, like, you're just going to turn out like the others. What do you want? What's the cost with this? Like, I didn't believe that people just did something for you out of the kindness on their own heart without an expectation of something back. Or I'd feel like, oh, I did something good, I need to do that again. So I almost became like a dog seeking a treat. Like, well, if I do this behavior, I get this. And love felt foreign, like a language I hadn't been taught, but I was somehow expected to speak fluently. And I've talked about how, in my heterosexual relationships, like, that it always felt like I was playing a role, like, oh, this is how it's supposed to feel. Like, I was almost outside my body, just going through motions. And it wasn't until, I connected with a woman, I was like, oh, this is suddenly easier. And, it wasn't until I came out and then started living more authentically, more openly, that I realized how much I'd been pushing love away and how hard it was for me how foreign it felt for me, and very, flip side of the coin, completely different to what I'd experienced all throughout life. Um, and I thought, haha, silly me, I thought being, when I was living authentic and being my true self, that everything would get magically better. And then if I finally embraced who I was, like, woohoo, I'm out, I'm gay, this is who I am, that love would naturally flow in. But even wearing all my big gay old overalls and embracing my identity fully, and this is who I am, I still found myself like questioning, doubting, and deflecting love when it came my way. Like it still wasn't natural for me just to um, accept that and go, "Yep, I'm worthy." So it still takes work, and I still have to catch myself, or Sharon will catch me in saying something, um, and I need to keep working so I don't keep repeating old beliefs and patterns and rewrite those stories. But again, it's not an instant thing. So, how have I tried to work through it? And how do we learn to accept it when it feels unfamiliar to us? And I guess for me, it was like I had to recognize my defenses. Like I started noticing the barriers that I would put up, even like subconsciously. And whether it was brushing off a compliment or downplaying someone's support or downplaying someone's gratitude for support I'd given them, you know, I had to acknowledge that that was a habit and a belief, and then start changing that and being conscious of it and going, rather when someone gives me a compliment, going, yeah, thanks. Oh, and then justifying, oh, yeah, but it's only, or I could have, or, you know, leaving it with a solid thank you and actually taking it on board and being genuine with that and going, well, that was cool that they said that and they believed that. And I had to learn how to treat myself. And Sharon was on here now. She go, still a big work in progress. But I had to treat myself with kindness and patience that I had for others and turn that internally, which is still something I really struggle to do at times. And Sharon is super good at picking up on the things that I say and hoi hoi hoi, like we're back there, Nelly. Like, what was that? And start to thinking. And when I started being kinder to myself, um, it's then easier for me to accept kindness from others because I'm used to accepting it. And gradually I got better at, letting people in. Like I didn't just, come on guys, here I am, I'm an open book. Like I didn't have to dive in like balls and all head first. I could start small with opening those gates externally by saying, thank you, instead of, like I said, challenging a compliment, or allowing myself to believe someone loved me and cared about me without questioning their motives. Like they don't know me. Like if I talk about Sharon's aunties, like they don't know me very well. Like how can they love me so much? But when they hug you and they say, I love you lots in my ear, like I feel that shit in my soul, which I've never done before. And I genuinely believe it. And, I was talking with one of them one day and they're like, well, you make Sharon happy and she's so important to me. I love you on that basis anyway, but I love you for who you are. And I had to sit with that and take that. But I felt the genuineness and the realness of it. So it made it easier. And I've had to, make sure that I have the right people around me that I trust implicitly. So this journey of coming out is like, I was talking to, when I started telling people, like I was almost, it was almost their audition for where they fit in my circle. So, okay, yep, you were good with this. You showed up for me unconditionally. Great. You're in the inner circle. Oh, you went, oh, really? And sort of created some distance. So now I know where you fit. And it's like finding my chosen family. Like these are the people, my blood family, not so awesome. So I had to build my own tribe and find my own family. And I've always said my friends are like my family, and they see me and they value me and they love me for who I am. And they tell me that frequently. And because now I'm more open and receptive, they can be too, and expressing that. And that has been, life changing for me to have that community and that tribe and that family around me. And they've taught me that it doesn't always have that love and acceptance and even my self-worth, it doesn't have to be earned. It's just simply given, because that's, what it is. It's freely given. And of course, the other big step is, going through therapy and coaching and counseling, and having professionals in my corner help me really realize and see and unpack those beliefs and challenge them that I had around love and my worthiness for it and my general worthiness. Why do you feel like that? Why are you holding on to that? Why does that mean so much to you? Where did it come from? And even for me, things that I hadn't realized that I were a belief, it really let me dig into that and unpack that and kind of find more of that. And, that's a process I'm still going through. I think I've probably said it 1,000 times on this podcast that, that it's work in progress. Like I said earlier, it didn't solve everything. It just brought more things into the light that I had to work through. And, I still see a counselor now. Sharon and I talk constantly, and it's that constant quest for growth and evolving to be, who I really want to be and who my identity is around some of this stuff. And that can be, the challenge for sure, as in finding that identity, seeing myself clearly and going, well, there's nothing wrong with me. I'm perfectly okay. And then having to work backwards through some of that stuff and go, well, why did so many other people make me feel like it wasn't okay? And understanding that that's their stories, their experience, deflecting on. And that's helping me as I get better at it. Not perfect, but as I get better at it, to navigate that space, navigate how I can learn to accept it and move past that old stuff. Don't know if any of that makes sense, but it's been a very challenging week in regards to just the tin tacks, boots on the ground, dealing with the issue that had arisen with mum in regards to painting me as a villain, and me. One of the stories I have is that I'm going to be the bad guy. I'm always the bad guy, and this week has shown me that's where it comes from very clearly, because I'm the one being her primary carer and helping her and supporting her when my other two siblings are completely absent, and I'm still the bad guy. I'm the person least likely to rip her off and take advantage and all the rest of it. So then I started digging into it and going, okay, so that's a story and that's where it's come from. And for me to be able to move forward and continue to do what I'm doing for her, I need to create some of those boundaries and need to create some of that structure and also change some of those stories myself, is that I'm not the bad guy here. I know, hand on heart, I'm doing the best things to help her, whether she recognizes it or not. And most of it will be the Alzheimer's and changes in her brain. So I need to continue to work on myself so that I can be, show up in the best way I can for me, and also take care of myself in this process and protect it. So, I continue to have counseling and things like that to and even navigate. Like the other day, I opened up my chest of drawers and I'm like, I don't like any of my clothes. And Sharon and I were talking, and I said, well, she goes, do you want to buy some more clothes? I said, well, I don't even know what I want, what style fits me, what my identity is around that. do I, want to continue to wear CrossFit themed clothing, or do I want to have country branded clothing? Like what? I don't know. I don't even know. Primarily, my wardrobe exists of blacks, browns, and greys, and khaki. That's essentially it. Like I'm wearing a blue shirt today, and I really like this shirt, but I have essentially a handful of shirts that are, light colored. And I prefer to wear, like on the podcast, a plainer shirt, or I should be wearing my BGO overall shirt today, but there you go. So yeah, it's I'm working through that whole process of, again, this, like, I came out, I'm a lesbian, but there's no guidebook like, okay, here's your lesbian uniform, here's what you're supposed to do. And I know there's a lot of memes and stuff around that. So all of this links back into that identity piece, and also then my worth and my ability to feel like I can freely express my identity, if that makes sense. So it's a journey. I guess that's my message at the end of that ramble, is that it's a journey, and we've all got to kind of work through that to where you get to a point where it's almost like a computer game. You keep leveling up. Sometimes you go back down to your last sort of save point, and then you recharge your health, and away you go. You can have another crack at it. So we just got to keep leveling up. We've got to keep doing the work. There's always work to be done. But it's not work to define ourselves. It's work to help ourselves understand who we truly are and what we will accept and what we won't accept, and be able to accept so much of the good stuff and, be like Teflon and let the not so good stuff slide right off us. So I guess to wrap this one up, if you've ever felt that you're unworthy, like of love or acceptance, or that you belong, like, I see you and I get it. I know the struggle and how hard it can be to let people in and to feel safe. And sometimes you think it's the right person and it's not, and that's going to happen. You just get better at picking the people, and like I said, not going in head first. And like, I get it, that's really hard. But the amazing truth for all of us in this, and it's a terrifying truth at times, is to have to even admit to ourselves that I am worthy, without conditions, without exceptions. I deserve, my place in the world and in the circles that I've created, because I chose to create them. So I know this is where I'm most accepted. External circles to that doesn't matter. Like, if I don't fit into that, that's okay. That's not me. That's me. That's okay. Like, you can not accept me. That's fine. But here in the circle I've chosen, that's where I belong. And, having love and a sense of worth and acceptance might not have been freely given to you throughout your life, but it doesn't mean it can't be yours now. And I'm one of the reasons I started this podcast is to share stories of where, it can go right, where things go right and things go well, and like, you can have it, but you've got to do the work. And because learning to accept love takes time, patience, and a whole heap of unlearning. And you need some help and guidance in that. But it is worth it. 100% worth it. And you deserve love just as you are. You don't need to change who you are. If you are being your authentic self and you're working on living in alignment with your values, then you're not a bad person. You're not doing anything wrong. You're just doing, you're trying to live the best life you can. And that's commendable, and live your life your way, which is, amazing. We could all learn from that. So I think that's where I'll put a pin in it today. Again, if you want to connect, please reach out, shoot me a message on the socials. I'm on Big Gay Overalls Podcast over on Instagram, Threads, TikTok. Just shoot me a message, shoot me an email, lisa@biggayoverallspodcast.com. You can leave a comment, leave a review. We'd love that on the podcast, or share this with someone that you think could benefit from it. But as always, I appreciate you. I'd be, you know, this little community that we're building makes me incredibly happy, and I'm glad to positively impact the people who choose to let me into your daily life. And just before I go, I'm going to have, I'm working on something really exciting it'll be for next year, but we'll make some announcements about it soon so we can start to get some balls rolling. But Sharon and I are very excited about getting Big Gay overalls literally on the road. So stay tuned to the socials and this for that. But we're super excited about, creating this as a community and a movement that we can take forward, because I think that the latent life lesbians lack visibility, and I think we deserve to be seen and our stories validated, because there's a lot of people out there that are stuck in the questioning space and not knowing and really not understanding their place, or struggling to find it, and feel alone. So we need to be more visible. So I'll talk about a bit more about that soon. All right, guys, take it easy. Reach out. Thank you for listening. Thanks for subscribing, and thanks for following.